going to look at one more example because I forgot to put one of these in your notes. So you're probably going to want to copy this one down to somewhere wherever you have room, whether it's on your notes, on a blank sheet of paper, or wherever. So this example is going to go through how to factor your trinomials if there are more than one variable. And I hope that the only things you will see are two variables. I don't think there are any with three or more variables. So the initial process is going to be the same, and most of the steps are going to be the exact same. The only difference is when you set up your two sets of parentheses, normally you just focus on whatever variable you have here on your first term. But now when you set up your parentheses, you are going to have to focus on both of your variables. So we're going to start the same way. You focus on your numbers, 2, 9, and 4, and you are going to multiply your first and last numbers, paying attention still to if there were any negatives. So in this one, 2 times 4 gives me 8. You then need two numbers that multiply to be 8 and add to be 9. I would start with, since I have a positive and a positive, I need positives, 1 and 8, which does just so happen to be 9. So those are your two numbers, 1 and 8. So this is where it's going to be slightly different. We're going to set up our two sets of parentheses. The first term in both is going to be focusing on this variable and half of that exponent, which is x to the first, or just x. And then after your plus or minus signs, depending on if you have any negatives, in our case it was two positives, so that's why they're both pluses, I'm going to put a 1 and I'm going to put an 8. But then I also need variables, oops, and this needs to be, hold on one moment, this is a 4. Change this to be 4y to the 4th, not 4y squared. When you do your second term, in both sets of parentheses, you need to look at the last variable and exponent. So when it's y to the 4th, you're going to take half of that exponent, which is y squared. And that needs to be on this term and this term. So the first term is from the first exponent and variable, and the last term is from the last variable and exponent. And in both cases, it's when you look at the exponent, it's half. So half of 2 is 1, and then half of 4 is 2. And then we're going to finish proceeding the same way we did before. We're going to now divide the last two terms by your first number. So we're going to divide both of those by 2. Once again, looking to see if they can divide, if the fractions can reduce, or if neither of those can happen. In the first parenthesis, I have 1 over 2, which does not divide. It also does not reduce. So I'm going to slide the 2 in front of the x to get 2x plus, and personal choice here, I'm left with just 1 y squared. So you can write 1 or you can just write y squared. Either one is acceptable. And then in your second parenthesis, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that one becomes x plus 4y squared. And then that would be your answer. Once again, you could go through and you could FOIL, and you would notice that when I do your first times your last, and then your inners, that is when you are going to get your x, y squared, that middle term there. Because you're going to end up having an x times a y squared and an x times a y squared. And then your x's together, x and x is going to give you an x squared, and a y squared and a y squared is going to give you a y to the 4th. All right, so the rest of the process is all the same. It's just focusing on when you set up those sets of parentheses. The first term in both is from the first variable and half of that exponent. And the last term in both is from the last variable and half of that exponent.